episode, we'll talk about a brutal injury for one young Chicago White Sox, and we'll talk about maybe the door opening for an old White Sox coming in. CHGO White Sox podcast coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Producing me today is our pal, Sarah.
Hello.
Hello. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I don't think we have shows tonight. I'm the last show.
Is it no Katie? Aren't they doing something? Katie's here.
Right, Katie's
yeah.
here. I knew they pre-taped.
The Bulls are always
yesterday.
doing something.
The Bulls are always doing something. So no, that's correct. There's a Bulls post game tonight. So very important. Katie is here because there's a Bulls post game. Matt Peck, I think Will is back from his vacation. They should have you covered for tonight's Bulls game. So make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our coverage. And you're probably going to be stuck at home tomorrow. We have a snow day tomorrow, but that doesn't mean we're off. We'll have you covered tomorrow with Cubs, Bulls, Blackhawks, and
we just turned everything remote.
Pretty much.
Because our GM doesn't want us all trekking into the studio during the snowstorm, which I am very happy about.
I don't want to either.
I don't want to take the train.
Hell no. I would taking the train and then walking from the train to work.
Sounds horrible.
No. All right. We're glad Luke is finally making one of these live. Ryan's happy to see Sarah. We're happy to see everyone hanging out with us. Again, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. On today's show, we'll talk about an injury that Chris Getz talked about today, and then we will talk about the reaction to that injury and what the White Sox should do because of this injury. I don't know if there's anything super pressing, but we'll get into it. Chris Getz did talk to the media today. Tomorrow, pitchers and catchers will report to White Sox spring training, to Glendale, to Camelback Ranch. So tomorrow, spring will have sprung. So congratulations to all of you. You've made it. Getz told the media that Ky Bush will be out for the 2025 season. Ky Bush will have Tommy John surgery and will miss the 2025 season. We'll talk about how the Sox will react to that later on in the show. He also did say, Chris Getz that is, that Drew Thorpe is feeling good. Quote, we do expect him to be a little behind, but active throughout spring training. I've pondered if that means he won't be on the opening day roster. It seems like there's three locks for that rotation right now. Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, and Martin Perez. Maybe Thorpe is a part of that opening day roster, but there's no real rush in my mind. So we'll see how Thorpe ends up feeling. But it seems like he'll at least make a start in spring training if I can parse through what Getz is saying. And then there was an update on Brian Ramos. Ramos saying that Ramos has been cleared to hit. He had some elbow soreness, and Getz also said that he would say the majority of our roster has to earn their opportunities. There are 69 people in White Sox camp, not including the 40 on the 40-man including the 40 on the 40-man roster, and then the 29 non-roster invites. Steven Wilson did clear waivers and has been outrighted to Charlotte, but he's also a part of camp. He's a non-roster invite, so 69 players currently in Major League camp for your Chicago White Sox. Let's get into the current rotation again. As I said, Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, and Martin Perez, I think are fairly locked in, like 98% locked in to be a starter out of camp. I'd be very shocked outside of injury if Cannon, Martin, or Perez weren't a part of the five that start the White Sox rotation out of camp and start opening day. So those are the three that I think are for sure starters. Here's the list of guys that possibly could be on the Major League roster, could be in the rotation, could be in the bullpen, or might just start altogether in Charlotte. We got Mason Adams and Sean Burke. Those two, I think Burke it might be on the 40-man, but Mason Adams is a non-roster invite. Jake Eder, Wikelman Gonzalez, Jairo Iriarte, Nick Nastrini, Jesse Schultens, Jared Schuster, Shane Smith, Drew Thorpe, and Bryce Wilson. Those are the guys that I think for sure are competing for a spot right now in camp. And that's, I think, 11 names right there. So 11 names fighting for 2 spots. And again, when Chris says he thinks the majority of a roster has to earn their spots, he thinks that will also lead to a very competitive camp, and maybe that will lead to the best of the best really rising to the crop. If I have to look at those names right now and say, this is the guy that will at least make starts, I don't think you should look too far past Mason Adams. I understand that he was, I think, only in Birmingham last year and stayed in Birmingham to help them win the Southern League, unless he did get called up to Charlotte. No, he got called up to Charlotte. My bad. 5 games for Mason Adams, a 5.82 ERA in those 17 innings. It was in the back half of the year, but he at least, at worst, will start at Charlotte. And it seems like he's a true starter. He gave you 120 innings last year, 109 in the previous year. It seems like he can give you that length, and it seems like he'll be able to avoid walking people. He didn't do that in Charlotte. 4.8 strikes per K per 9 for 4.8 walks per 9. But you look at Birmingham, 8.8 strikeouts per 9, 1.7 walks per 9. He did do a very good job of throwing the ball in the zone, making hitters at least try to react and either get themselves out or, try to paint some pitches. So I think that Adams has the mold of a starter, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up having a really good camp and maybe he ends up being that guy. You'd have to create a 40-man roster spot for him and then be able to pull him up to the major league roster. But if it is all about competition and the best people winning out, who cares if you have to cut, Penn Murphy. Penn Murphy, especially if Penn Murphy's family's watching. Sorry to Penn Murphy, but that was just he's the first name that popped up. But maybe even a Justin Dunn. There are names that are fairly cuttable on this White Sox roster, and if the best guy is going to be given that chance and that opportunity, it could be Mason Adams. And then the other guy that I think will likely, out of the 11 that I threw out there, Adams, Burke, Eder, Gonzalez, Iriarte, Nastrini, Schultens, Schuster, Smith, Thorpe, and Wilson. I think Sean Burke's the other name that could possibly start at least in April for the Sox. I don't think it's crazy to include Drew Thorpe into this conversation, but just for my sake, I don't think there's any reason to rush him back. Have him kind of make his 2025 debut in May. I think that would make most sense. Thorpe is still a top 100 prospect if people are including him on top 100 prospect lists. I just talked to James Fox yesterday, who's mad that he's still included. That is Drew Thorpe on top 100 prospect list because he was active for 45 days. Oh, well, he's still a prospect to some people. And I think that Thorpe, again, there's no real rush to move him up. And he needs to be out there at his most effective. We know that his fastball kind of sits 91, 92 miles per hour. You don't want him sitting 89, 90, and then that lower half when he is coming back, you want him at full go. So I don't think there's a rush to get Drew Thorpe back. So that's why I think Mason Adams and Sean Burke could possibly be the 2 other starters, along with Jonathan Cannon, Davis Martin, and Martin Perez in the White Sox rotation. Then if we look at the bullpen, because this will then lead up to the free agent signing and the topic of today's podcast, Jose Quintana. If you look at the bullpen and the names that haven't been mentioned or missed out on making the rotation, I think Gus Varland is a fairly easy lock. We saw that they've been pushing him heavily on social media, but also he was fairly good when he was claimed by the Sox from the Dodgers, came over and was really good with the White Sox out of their bullpen. So a young guy under 25, let's take him. Or I think under 26, 7, still under 30. Then you have Brandon Eisert. He was just picked up recently from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's a left-handed pitcher. It seems like he's got a lot of interesting parts about him. First of all, he never pitched for Tampa Bay, so this was an off-season acquisition. Toronto let go of him, then Tampa picked him up, and then the White Sox picked him up. But Eisert looks interesting just because he's consistently thrown like 60 innings since 2019. 2019 with Oregon State, 62 innings. 2021 split between low A, advanced A, and then double A, 63 innings. With Buffalo in triple A, 60 innings. With Buffalo in triple A, 69 innings. With Buffalo in triple A, 53 innings, and then he played a little bit with Toronto last year, 6.23 innings, so 60 innings in 2024. He's basically thrown 60 innings each year. You know you're going to get 60 innings out of Brandon Eisert, and the numbers haven't been great enough to get him promoted from AAA. I guess it finally did in 2024. But being a lefty, being a guy that at your best, you could probably be an 11K to 3 walk per 9, 11K per 9, 3 walk per 9 lefty. Like, it's got a real good place in Major League Baseball. And it's a guy that hasn't gotten a shot, and I really don't know why. The numbers aren't outstanding when you look at them in AAA, but they're also not horrible. 2 full seasons of 60-plus innings with a sub-4 ERA. I think Eisert is at least going to get a look out of camp. So Eisert's the second name. He's a lefty. I think there's going to be another lefty in Fraser Ellard in that bullpen. You can also include Justin Anderson every day, the righty, Prelander Baroa, the righty that they acquired in the Gregory Santos trade. I think Shane Smith, they had the number 1 overall pick in the Rule 5 draft, and if you're going to go out and have the pick of all picks, I don't understand not giving that guy the actual chance to make your Major League roster. So I think Shane Smith in some shape or form, and it could be as one of the starters, so maybe no Mason Adams, Sean Burke slides up, and then you see Shane Smith get a start. But I do think Smith will be involved in some shape or form with the Major League roster. Bryce Wilson signed a Major League contract. I'd be surprised if he wasn't a part of the bullpen. I think he's got a very similar role to Chris Flexen, where Flexen was in the rotation, in the bullpen, finally found a spot in the rotation, and then lasted there. I think they're going to put Bryce Wilson, thinking Seattle, Bryce Wilson, wherever he is most effective, or at least where they need guys. And with the injury to Kai Busch, that could possibly be starter right away. I wouldn't be surprised by it, but also I'm fine with giving the younger guys those chances. And if those guys can't make up for it, then let's try out our guy, Bryce Wilson. And then finally, the 8th spot, I don't know who exactly this is going to be. Got Penn Murphy, who's formerly of the Seattle Mariners, 102 stuff plus on his 4-seam fastball, 113 stuff plus on his slider last year. His location plus from 2022 to 2023 went from 105 to 88, so just wasn't really dotting him up like he used to. He's got a funky arm angle, so maybe that could be why he ends up being on the team. But I'm not really sold on Murphy. We'll see how he performs at spring training. The other name, Cam Boozer, formerly of the Chicago Dogs, formerly of the Boston Red Sox. He's a lefty. He's got some big K stuff, but he's also got the ability to completely miss the zone. He could be a guy that, in his first 3 outings, he's got a 9+ ERA because he's walking the first 3 guys of every single inning, and there's no more Cam Boozer. But we'll see how the bullpen shakes out. I don't think there's going to be too many competitions, per se, when it comes to pitching. It's just going to be mainly who's going to be our best come April. And maybe, just some guys aren't really that quick to get ready, amped, and going like you'd hope them to be. We got 25 people watching and only 5 likes. I really would appreciate you hit that thumbs up button and you make sure you're supporting the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. I got some more stuff on Jose Quintana because, again, if they're going to be losing Kai Busch, they're going to be losing a lefty, do they look to go and add a veteran to bolster this rotation? Chris Getz says he thinks that they will win more games than in 2024, but wasn't really committed to it. Because imagine how bad it would look if you somehow looked at this team from 2023 or 2024 and said, 121 games, there's no way it can get worse. Just you wait. Not so fast, my friends. Just you wait. All right. Sarah, do we have to take a break? We have 15 minutes yet?
Oh, we can take a break. It's okay.
Why don't we take a break?
Yeah.
Why don't we take a break? We'll take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast, and then we'll talk about Jose Quintana. On the CHGO White Sox podcast, we want to let you know about Ray CDJR. If you are in the market for a new vehicle, head over to our friends at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Our friends over at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram have the President Days sales event going on all month long. Shop federally approved savings on brand new vehicles. Head to Ray CDJR on Route 12 to choose from their huge inventory of new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, take 18% off MSRP with a dealer discount on all new 2024 gas-powered Jeep Wrangler models, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray CDJR is here to help you during each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, since they prioritize affordability, you know you won't overpay for the vehicle you need. With Ray's Price Promise, you could shop confidently with no add-ons or no hidden fees ever. The price you see is the price you pay. It's that simple. So go check out our friends over at Ray CDJR. They are the only team we recommend. Don't miss out on their President Day sales event going on all month long for 18% off MSRP on all new 2024 gas-powered Jeep Wrangler models. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. I also want to let you know about our friends over at Cornbread Hemp. If you are looking to calm your night down, if you're got like an anxious and maybe a running brain at night, maybe you're thinking about who's going to be the 4th and 5th starter for the Chicago White Sox, head over to Cornbread Hemp and check out their America's first ever USDA organic THC gummies. Their mission at Cornbread Hemp is to help you improve your quality of life with the highest quality hemp. A natural and healthy way to experience a carefree moment. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. And again, they're America's first USDA organic THC edible that is proudly grown in Kentucky. It's perfect for taking off the edge without making you feel anxious or paranoid like other cannabis edibles. And each gummy is 10 milligrams of THC for the right dose. Cornbread uses no harsh solvents like petrochemicals or industrial acids. Unlike most THC products, there's no synthetic ingredients, and you can have a Farm Bill compliant and legal product for adults over 21 or older. So if you're looking for a healthy way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal. And for a special offer, visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout to get 30% off your first order. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use code CHGO for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier, happy hour. Sarah, we also got to talk about how bright this future is, because here are the sunglasses. Future's so bright, we got to wear shades. And our shady rays, these are the stock shades. These aren't the ones that I go with. Usually I go with a black one, but there's millions of colors to choose from over at Shady Rays. However, the future is so bright because this team is so damn young. I think there's 2 people over 30 on this team. This is just a true batch of young guns, and maybe it is going to be a Mason Adams going to be, stepping up here. But let's put on our rose-colored glasses and explain to people why the future is so bright for the Chicago White Sox, brought to you by Shady Rays. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO at checkout for 35% off polarized sunglasses. I guess the reason why it's so bright is just because there's no pressure. There's no pressure on Will Venable. There's no pressure on Chris Getz. There's no pressure on any of these young guys. And if they do want to take pressure off of them, well, they're only spending about $65 million. So they could go out and get a veteran starter if they wanted to. Let's go into that topic, and we'll talk about Jose Quintana. You know the name. He was traded to the Cubs for Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease and someone else that I cannot remember, thankfully. That was not Mike Alt. But Quintana went to the Cubs, bounced around, was with the Pirates, was with the Giants, was with the Mets for the past 2 years, and he still hasn't found a home. And I think the one thing that the White Sox for sure had last year, and it wasn't even apparent until he finished the season, was 160 innings from Chris Flexen. And it seemed like they still wanted to get some sort of innings from somebody, whether it be Mike Clevenger, who they brought in, unfortunately, and he couldn't stay healthy. Shocker to none. They brought in Brad Keller. They tried him out. They tried Chad Kuhl as well. They tried him out. I still think that they're looking for someone to carry a load here. And Quintana has done that. Quintana, 29 games in 2021, 10 games started, a 6.43 ERA, 63 innings pitched. But then, since 2022, he's only been a starter, and he's been pretty fantastic. 2022, 32 games started, 2.93 ERA, 165 and 2/3 innings pitched. 23, 13 games started, 3.57 ERA, a 75 and 2/3 innings pitched in 2023. And then 2024, 31 games started, 3.75 ERA, and 170 and 1/3 innings pitched. Luke saying Matt Rose was the other player back, I think. I do think you're correct on that. But truly, at worst, over the past 3 years, Quintana will give you 75 innings. It's not terrible, but it's a lot more than what you got from Keller and Clevenger combined last year. It's not exactly what Chris Flexen gave you, but it's like a little under half if, Quintana doesn't stay healthy and only gives you 13 innings like he did in 2023. Outside of that, it seems like he'll be able to get 150 pretty easily. I don't know if they need to go and maybe contract boost this contract specifically, but especially with pitchers, I don't think these are guys that can miss spring training. You're having pitchers and catchers report tomorrow. I think if they're going to sign another player, it's going to have to be now, either like right now while we're doing the show and we'll do an emergency podcast, yada, 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 or within this week. I feel like if they're not really trusting of what they have in-house to be a part of their starting day rotation, Quintana makes the most sense. Kyle Gibson's too old. Nick Pavetta's really shaky. I love Spencer Turnbull, but he only pitched 17 games last year. It's not even like a pinnacle of health that you could rely on. It seems like Jose Quintana, it's not flashy, but he can get the job done. I think a 1 year, $5 million deal, you got to pay him more than Martin Perez. And then you also gave him a $2 million buyout kind of in the mutual option thing for Perez next year. So it's pretty much a 1 year, $7 million deal. But then give him a bonus, just like Chris Flexen did when he hit certain inning thresholds. 100 innings pitched, give him $250K. 125 innings pitched, give him $250K. You hit 150, $500K. That's a $1 million bonus for pitching 150 innings. And I think that's less money than you gave Chris Flexen. I think this team would really benefit from a guy that you can just trust to go out there every other day. You already have that in Martin Perez, but if you are looking to win more games in 2025, the more the merrier when it comes to veterans. Ryan's throwing out Cal Quantrill. I do have some more Jose Quintana stuff, but why don't we go over to Cal Quantrill? I don't know why Cal Quantrill hasn't signed with a team yet. It seems like he did all right when he went over to the Rockies. 29 games started, a 4.98 ERA. Not a ton of strikeout stuff for him. Was he better away from Coors? I don't know. I mean, like, he's young. He's a lot younger compared to the most people on the free agent market, but I just don't think that he is that interesting. Coors Field, he had an ERA of 4.48. So at least the guy that pitched mostly in Coors Field and had a 4.48 ERA, and his ERA was like a 4.98. I don't know. I don't know about Cal Quantrill. There's nothing really jumping out from his page that makes me think Cal Quantrill can do it. Because he walks a decent amount of people, doesn't strike out a ton. I don't think he can really miss bats that much. So I would say avoiding Quantrill at all costs. I think if you're going to actually pick a team for him to end up at, I think he could be a bullpen guy for the Boston Red Sox. They might tell him to stop throwing his fastball completely and entirely, and then they will just go and have him be a guy that just throws like 75% sweepers. All right. So we talked to Cal Quantrill. We talked a little bit about Jose Quintana. Why don't I give you some more Jose Quintana notes as I drop them all over the floor? All right. So Quintana last year, 4.56 FIP and a 47% ground ball rate. I would obviously be thrilled if Quintana came back, just because who doesn't love seeing 62 on the back of a jersey again? You're seeing Quintana, a reunion, a racunion, if you want to stretch it. But I don't know if it's necessarily the right pitcher for this defense. Who's their shortstop? I've been talking to White Sox people for a couple months now at this point, trying to figure out who the 2025 White Sox shortstop will be. Just talked to the guys over at Future Sox yesterday. Who's their shortstop? Who do you think is going to play shortstop on opening day for the White Sox? Because if it's Colson Montgomery, I don't think Jose Quintana wants to pitch behind Colson Montgomery. You maybe could go with Jacob Amaya, who's got that glove first defense, but he's going to be batting ninth every single lineup that he's in. And maybe Mydroth, but when I was talking to the future Sox guys, doesn't seem like he's got a big enough arm or enough range to even be a shortstop. So, does Quintana and does any self-respecting pitcher want to sign with the Chicago White Sox because of their defense? I mean, you even look at third base. Vargas has some interest as a former top prospect, but it was mostly with the bat. There wasn't really a position that he had in LA. There wasn't a position that they felt comfortable putting him at every single night. And that's frankly just because the Dodgers are so talented. But even then, like, the White Sox committed for him being a third baseman. And I don't think any of us were like, wow, that's a great third baseman over there. At second base, you have Rojas, who's a veteran. But then even at first base, you got Vaughn, who is too short to play the position. So I think Quintana would be interesting. But a guy that fielding independent pitching, you got like a 4.56. You include the poor defense in there as well. Is his ERA going to be above 4 just because of the poor defense? And then the ground ball rate being nearly 50%. That's a lot of balls for the White Sox to go and pick up. I don't think a single one of their current rotation members have a ground ball rate above 40%. Maybe I'm forgetting about Martin Perez's number, but at least Cannon and Martin, I mean, even Burke and Adams, like, those guys don't have that high of a ground ball rate. So is this the right pitcher for the team? I don't know. Quintana, though, has really found it over the past couple of years with the Mets. Against righties, he pretty much throws the kitchen sink at them. 26.2% four-seam fastball, 26% curveball, 24% sinker, 23% changeup. The sinker dominated righties. A 10-pitcher run value. Every other pitch was at a 0-pitcher run value. But if every other pitch is at a 0 and your sinker's at a 10, you're going to be getting righties out. So he did a really good job of getting righties out with that sinker. That wasn't even his main pitch that he used against righties. It was mostly his four-seam fastball. It's a weird slider or a weird sinker. It doesn't have a ton of drop like a typical sinker does. It's got kind of average run like in towards a righty or away from a lefty, but it doesn't really have that like drop off. So that was at least interesting looking at StatCast and finding out the shape of his sinker. And then you go to him versus lefties. 53.6% sinker, 27.1% sweeper, 8.9% four seam, 6.1% curve, 4.4% changeup. 53% sinker might sound like overkill, but he could probably honestly throw it about like 60% of the time. His sinker was extremely effective to lefties as well. 3 pitcher run value. The sweeper wasn't that bad. It was a -2 pitching run value, but when you look at where he was damaged, it's mainly sweepers that didn't sweep or break and that just ended up middle. So did he make some mistakes? The 36-year-old, absolutely. But for the most part, he's going to put it where he should, and he's going to try to change up speeds on righties. And then with lefties, he's going to basically just be a sinker and sweeper pitcher, and you're going to have to guess, 30 feet out from the mound on where it's going to break, and if it's going to go away from you as a lefty or if it's going to go in on you as a lefty. So overall, I don't think Quintana would be a waste of money, but I don't know if he makes sense for this team. And I think especially the guy that, especially in 2023, he didn't sign right away with the team and then ended up being up with the Mets. I think he'll look for some team where he can actually contribute to winning. And I don't think that's going to be, and that's going to end up being the White Sox. Maybe it will be. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think Quintana is going to be ending up a White Sox. The team he has been with was the Mets. They currently have 6 starting pitchers: Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, Frankie Montas, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, and Pete Blackburn, the Blackburn from the A's. So I don't think that they're looking for another starting pitcher. So it seems like Quintana at least won't go back to where he was. So maybe he'll come back to where he was, the Chicago White Sox. hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate you watching us here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We'll be back on Thursday at 4 p.m. to talk about pitchers and catchers reporting. It's tomorrow. You can follow us at CHGO_White Sox. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. If you're looking to join a community, we have a diehard community that's thriving. You get to talk about the White Sox with us in our diehard Discord. So head over, scan the QR code, or head over to allchgo.com/diehard to sign up. Hit that thumbs up button. We appreciate Ryan, Luke, Dark Gift, and everyone else hanging out with us. Sarah, I guess you're right there, though.
I'm here.
Yeah, thanks for producing the show. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.